Hey, it's Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of the syndicated talk show People of Distinction. The talk that gives an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, alcoleenterprises.com today for more info, or you can always email me directly through Benji at alcoleenterprises.com. And on the line with us today, we have the impressive Lyle Simpson. We're going to be discussing his amazing book, Fully Human, Fully Alive. Now, it's available for purchase through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, pretty much every online book reseller. People, you're going to want to check out the Humanist.com website as well. But while you're going through all of those resources, make sure that you're getting the newest edition available. That's right, there is a new edition for Fully Human, Fully Alive that was released in 2024. So remember, that's the one you want to get. And before we go any further, I want to take this opportunity and point out that Lyle was brought to our network, People of Distinction today, by one of the best advertising firms in the business. And people, if you follow us, you already know I'm talking about Author Reputation Press. So for my writers out there listening in, listen to me well. If you have gone through your process, creating your masterpiece, and now you've completed it, although one thing, now you're going to need help moving the masterpiece you just developed. Well, if that's you, give yourself the best gift you could possibly give and contact ARP. They're one of the best in the business to do it, people. And this is exactly what they specialize in. So head on over to authorreputationpress.com today and gather all the ways that their fantastic team is going to help maximize your creative endeavors. And listen, people, it is an absolute pleasure to have Lyle here on the line. Understand that his book is a philosophical exploration of existence. I mean, to put it as plain as thing, that's really what we're discussing today. This is a book that questions the very essence of being alive. Join us as Lyle Simpson shares his profound insights on life's most profound mysteries and what it truly means to be alive. I'm telling you, this book is going to challenge your perceptions and awaken a new understanding of life itself. These are some big statements, and I promise you his book is able to back up all of it. Lyle Simpson is truly the embodiment of a person of distinction, and this book is nothing short of magnificent. Sit back and strap in. Lyle, first and foremost, welcome to People of Distinction, and thank you very much for being a guest. How are you doing today, sir?
Well, thank you very much. I'm thrilled to have this opportunity. I've been spending 60 years working on this subject, and I think it's down to a point now where it really will make a difference in the lives of people. And I'm more than happy to share that because I think our society really needs it. As a matter of fact, people don't realize it, but 70% of the people in the world, in America today, can't get above what Abraham Maslow describes as the social level. And there's 3 levels above that would make their life far more meaningful if they only knew it existed. And that's really the purpose of the book.
Yeah. Well, listen, Lyle, thank you very much. Again, I mentioned it in my opening statements, man. What you've done here is profound. And it's something, when we talk about just the essence of life, the existence of life, I mean, this is something we've all contemplated. These are questions we've all asked. So to really have an in-depth analysis is something special. Now, you mentioned a moment ago Dr. Maslow, and that's really where I want to start. For people that are unaware, myself included, I mean, of course, I've done some research now in preparation for today's interview, but let's start at the ground floor. First and foremost, who was Dr. Abraham Maslow, and what was his hierarchy of needs? Explain that a little bit more to us.
Well, that's kind of a complicated thing to answer, but I'll certainly give you the story. My undergraduate work before I became an attorney was in the field of psychology. And I did not learn about Maslow at that point in time, but psychology started with Sigmund Freud, who took people with bad behavior and brought them into the mainstream of society. Mm-hmm. So it sort of started as a negative science. Then the behaviorist comes along. Everybody's heard of the dog that they ring a bell and all of a sudden he'd salivate, which proves that behavior could be modified.
Yeah.
And behaviorists start with the philosophy that behavior is caused by need deprivation. And that's the world that Maslow grew up in. He was trying to figure out why two of his professors were such beautiful people, what their need deprivation was that caused that. And all of a sudden he realized, hey, maybe we got all this backwards. Maybe these are normal people, and to the extent you have need deprivation, you become abnormal. And clear down to the people that Freud was dealing with. So he decided to start studying needs. What he found was that needs can be classified based upon the strength of their need deprivation. And it's dramatic. And what he found is actually most psychology students would tell you there's 5 levels. That's because only later in his life did he discover the 6th level that we'll talk about here in a minute. But so he started classifying needs based upon the strength level. And what he found is by breaking them down into these 6 different levels, the drive strength of each level is about twice that of the level immediately above it. Mm-hmm. And this really opened an entirely different level of science. And he discovered that basic needs are those that support life itself: food, water, sex, shelter, warmth. If you really have to go to the bathroom, nothing else is important. That takes over immediately.
Yeah.
Once those needs are satisfied, then he has the security level that builds the mechanisms for assuring the future satisfaction of those other needs. Once those needs are satisfied, then we extend to bring other people within our defense mechanism, so we share life with them on the social level. Once those needs are satisfied, you can extend outward for recognition on the ego level to become a full person. Once those needs are satisfied, you get to a point of actualization where all of your needs are satisfied. And if that happens, then there's a 6th level above that where you contribute your life to benefit others without any selfish motivation for yourself. In other words, you give yourself to make a real difference in the world. And if you start from the premise that there may not be an actual life hereafter, the only life hereafter we can be guaranteed really exists is the extent to which you leave the world a better place because you've been here. Mm. So the purpose of the book is to help you get there. Now, 70% of all Americans are locked on the social level or below. So that's sad. These people don't even realize there's 3 levels above that they could have if they only knew how to get there. Mm-hmm. And the purpose of this book is to show them the path to cause that to happen.
You know, Lyle, thank you very much for explaining all of that. People, I'm telling you, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, thehumanist.com. You got to pick up Fully Human, Fully Alive by Lyle Simpson. Lyle, continuing on here, you've mentioned a number of times already what your purpose behind writing this book was. Well, in addition to that, and kind of building off of it, why did you feel, because it sounds like as you're explaining this and you're talking about how 70% of people aren't even aware of these things. So you're raising that awareness. You're writing this book to inform. It almost comes across as this was a call to action almost, right? Where you felt compelled to do that. Now, by no means do I want to assume or put words in your mouth. So Lyle, talk to us a little bit more about that inspiration. Why did you feel that this was a book that needed to be written?
Oh, well, first place, I discovered that I was a humanist many, many years ago. I became an officer. Well, this will be my 50th year of being an officer in the American Humanist Association.
Wow.
I spent 6 years as its national president and got to know a whole lot of people that are on the growing tip of thought of something. And these are people that range from, well, good God, Albert Einstein to Bertrand Russell to Bill Nye the Science Guy to Dr. Seuss. It's a wide range. But people I've gotten to know personally well, my successor as national president was Isaac Asimov, who published 480 books. His 2-volume guide to the Bible takes every chapter of the Bible and puts it in a historic setting. And or Asimov's Guide to Science, or Asimov's Guide to Physics. The guy was brilliant. And Carl Sagan, the astronomer, you spend a weekend with him, it really charges your batteries. But these people cause you to think outside the box. Mm-hmm. And Will and Errol Durant wrote The History of Civilization. Gene Roddenberry, that created Star Trek. Every edition of Star Trek is a humanist message. Humanism is not a religion. It's a philosophy of how you live your life while you're here on Earth. And these people are on the growing tip of it. And anyway, so that motivated me to want to do my part.
Yeah.
And hopefully this book can do it.
In addition to informing people with this information, what are you hoping to see people do with that information once it's received?
Most people simply exist, and they don't benefit society. And if people really understood the benefit that they would get by giving of themselves to others, it makes a huge difference. Let me just give you one little example.
Yeah.
My grandson is a third-generation humanist now. He was a freshman at Drake University, and he and 20 students and 3 professors went on a study abroad program aboard. One of the professors was from Uganda, a rural community where he took these students. These students didn't realize he was from there until they were sitting in his father's living room. These people never had seen white people before, let alone Americans. My grandson got real concerned because he heard that this fellow took his wife the 3-day walk to the nearest medical clinic to try and deliver their baby. But he didn't have the equivalent of $5 to pay for the delivery kit, so they refused to deliver the baby. So he tried to deliver his own baby on the side of the road, and the baby and mother both died. That was more than my grandson could handle. He said, I'm going to spend the rest of my life seeing these people get a medical clinic. Mm-hmm. When he made that decision, 6 of the other students agreed to help him, which meant the professors had to get involved. 3 years later, my grandson, they had gone back. Well, let me back up. One of the children was the daughter of a fellow in a Rotary Club here in the community, mm-hmm. who handled the international committee for that Rotary Club. And so the Rotary Club got involved, was pretty well assured that this clinic was going to happen. So the kids went back in January, found a Rotary Club over in Uganda that had an architect in it that designed the building and a contractor who gave them how much it was going to cost to build. But they came back, and my grandson agreed he'd raise the money if the rest of the kids would meet all the other needs. And so he spent his second semester sophomore year raising the money. And the clinic got started, broke ground, and a year later, it was ready to be completed. They had found a doctor that would manage it, and they found a church over there that would provide staffing for it. And during this time, well, I've been an attorney now for 60 years. I help people be successful in whatever they want to do rather than the typical attorney that gets in the middle of the battle and gets into lawsuits. 5 of my clients are now world leaders in what they do, and I think I've helped. 80% of all new businesses fail the first 3 years. We lose maybe 16, 17% because either it was a dumb idea or you didn't listen. But I do think we make a difference between that and the 80% who otherwise would not maybe exist today.
Yeah.
The point being, we're trying to make the world a better place. And during that, one of my clients is what's called the Great Ape Trust. There are 7 bonobos here in Des Moines that have lived with humans their entire life, so they understand everything we were saying when we talk to them. they don't have a voice box to speak, and so they've got a symbol board of 500 symbols. So they talk back to us. Des Moines is the only place on earth where you can conduct an intelligent conversation in the English language with another species of life. And as a result, it brings people from all over the world. So this attorney from Minnesota comes down, and I'm talking to her about what she does, and she represents nonprofit entities, one of which in Minnesota takes all of the equipment from hospitals. When they buy new equipment, they turn the old over, or doctors retire, they give the physical part of their practice to this organization to put it in third world countries so they can get a tax deduction. I told her what these kids were doing, and she said, well, I realize it's not a hospital, but it's got the same needs. He says, you tell these kids to come up and talk to our board, and we'll put all the equipment you're ever going to need in that clinic. So the kids did. And the board said, okay, we'll give you a 40-foot trailer full of all the things you're going to need, $375,000 worth of equipment, if you'll raise $10,000 to pay for its shipment to Uganda. So the kids did that.
Wow.
And a year later, that clinic is open and operating. One of the professors went back to see it and saw there was a little 2-month-old baby laying there in a crib with an IV drip. They had both malaria and pneumonia. That child typically would have died. That little child opened her eyes and looked at that professor. She melted. She said, that made all this worthwhile. That child would not be alive today, and my grandson had not made that decision. That's important.
Yeah.
My grandson did it because he has the attitude of a humanist, and he didn't know how he was going to get it done. All he knew is he was going to commit his life to see that it happen. And as a result, that child's alive today, and so are many, many other people. 30,000 people live in that community that had never in history had medical care until he made that decision. Well, that's the kind of thing that people can do when you get to that 6th level of Maslow. And that's what life really ought to be about, because you know, if there's not a life hereafter, my grandson's got an immortality now that you just can't beat. Mm-hmm. And he's excited about life today because of his philosophy. And so this book is trying to encourage that kind of thinking in the public. And I hope it works, because then I think my life will have had value.
Yeah. Lyle, I have no doubt that it will. Man, I can sit here and I can talk to you for hours. Again, I am thoroughly engulfed in what you're talking about here. People, you know where you got to go. You have to pick up copies of this book for yourself, because there's just too much information. We couldn't possibly cover it in such a small interview. So this is just meant to be a snapshot. But as we close out of here, Lyle, throughout this entire process of writing this book, what would you say was a highlight? Or if not a highlight, something that surprised you that you weren't anticipating before you began on this journey?
Well, in order to help people find wherever their barriers are inside of them that keep them from being able to get beyond them, I've traveled to Israel 3 times, for instance, because religion is something that does factor into the lives of most people in America. Interestingly enough, that's true in the Western culture. It's not true in China. American Bar sent 10 of us to China to study the legal system, and what shocked me over there, they do have churches, but people don't attend them because the government discourages that, because they don't want people to communicate with each other. Mm-hmm. The thing that motivates people in China is saving face. And losing face with somebody that trusts you is a mortal sin over there. I've studied the society of the Sumerians before the Babylonians took over it's in southern Iraq, actually. And they're the ones that really created our organized religious systems that we have today. So I've spent a lot of time studying this subject, but in Israel, there are a lot of facts that we have that we believe because that's what we've learned in church or whatever, that really aren't true. And not that it matters, because these are symbols. but people hang on to their symbols. And what I'm trying to do in the book is I'm trying to expand people's thinking, which is frankly the whole purpose of a college education.
Yeah.
The factual information you learn, that's going to change in a short period of time because science evolves. But it's how you process information so you make it useful for yourself that counts. And so this book approaches life from that perspective. And, I think that's kind of exciting. It has made a huge difference in my life. Just going to Israel was a tremendous experience. This might not be the day to go with the war going on. But, yeah. It's eye-opening to be there. It's only a country 60 miles wide, and the inhabitable portion is about 150 miles long. That's teeny, 8 million people living there, but it's small. Mm-hmm. And yet the history there is just overwhelming. But so this whole search, in order to be able to write this book, has enhanced my own life. And I'm hoping that I can enhance the life of many other people.
People, could we have selected a more perfect embodiment of a person of distinction to be with us today on our network? It is remarkable how impressive and philosophical this book is. You know where you got to go. I said it before. I'm going to say it again just to re-impress it one last time. It's Amazon. It's Barnes & Noble. It's thehumanist.com. Get the newest edition of Fully Human, Fully Alive by Lyle Simpson. This is something you need to add to your shelf. This is a conversation you need to have with those around you. This is a gift you need to get for someone else to add to their shelf. Because I'm telling you, this book is much larger than a literary creation. This book is a movement, and it's going to open your eyes to so much. Head on over there today. Get lost in all of it. Lyle, this has been a true pleasure, man, an absolute delight. Thank you once again for being a guest on People of Distinction.
Thank you for having me.